Yeah. As time passed by, I'm just here watching you run out my life. It just don't feel right to not have you here right by my side. See, I needed a moment of clarity to clarify all this calamity that's trying to end me. Now, who can I blame? Can I say it's my enemies? Or I'm hard to distract?
Hello everyone, this is BH Talks, aka BH Boss, talking loud, singing everything. This commentary is directed towards the older and younger generation. However, to the younger people, please pay close attention to what I'm about to say. Based on my observations and actual experiences, I have determined that we as Black Americans should have stayed in our places. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this phrase before, so you know what I'm talking about. Our place was a good place, and we need to go back. I'm sure that there are so many of you who would agree with me that the civil rights movement actually took us in the wrong direction for advancing our Black race. When we compare our present state as Black Americans to the prior times of the civil rights movement, we would see that we had opportunities to create more for ourselves with what we had, despite the desegregation mumbo jumbo. We were happier, more family oriented, and a very proud people who raised our children and everybody else's children to be proud and stick together no matter what the circumstances were. Did you know that based on a 2014 U.S. Census Bureau study, that 27% of all African American men, women, and children live below the poverty level? Now that was in 2014, 27%. I'm sure those figures are much higher now. And did you know that by Pacific states, Louisiana is the highest with 40%. That's 40% of all African American men, women, and children living below the poverty level. That's in Louisiana. In Washington State, it's 37%. Michigan, 35%. Washington, D.C., 30%. And as I said, I know those figures are much higher now in 2016. When Black Americans were taken out of the segregation mode and thrown into the aftermath of the civil rights movement and its integrated mode, we came out of our places and went into other places that, as you can see, did not benefit us whatsoever. This integration affected us both mentally and physically, and that yielded nothing but a downward spiral of deprivation. This included everything from our health, loss of jobs, housing, and a sense of well-being, and as well as our original identity being lost. We were already in a good place. All we had to do was build on, improve on, and expand our communities. Doing so, I do believe we would have been in a much better place than we are now. We had brilliant teachers who concentrated on educating us with real knowledge, integrity, and high self-esteem, as well as respect towards each other. Just take a look at what these integrated schools are doing for our children. From throwing them across a classroom to denigrating their spirits so bad that a lot of them resulted to dropping out. The dropout rate has increased tremendously in the last decade for our Black children. This was almost unheard of in our Black schools and communities back in the day, because those teachers did all they could to motivate us and encourage us. This kept us in school. Remember when we had more than one parent structure? The entire neighborhood parents were able to discipline each other's children. But not now, because it's gotten to a point where you could barely say anything to other people's children without confrontation. And many of us can vouch for that. If we would have stayed in our places, we would have been able to concentrate on possessing and creating our own businesses so that we can employ those who live in our community. In addition, coming out of our place caused us to lose our homes, land, and other resources. Now, I hate to paint a bleak picture, but most of us own nothing and have nothing for our children. 45.8% of young black children under the age of 6 live in poverty, compared to 14.5% of white children. Right now, there are very few black American communities across this country. This means that we traded our communities in for the right to eat at other people's restaurants or to live in their communities. However, I must say that those colored and white signs, they had to go. Now, it's never too late to scramble and get something so that we could begin setting up communities like we had before, or that we should have now. And don't get me wrong, I'm not preaching separatism here, but we ask ourselves why we're in the present financial state that we're in. I can't help but come to the conclusion that we're not living in our rightful places. And when I say rightful places, I'm referring to communities that we can strategize our own economic growth. We really should have left well enough alone. So to the younger generation, let's begin to come up with ways to create communities like your parents and grandparents had, because our overall survival is at stake right now. Try to come up with ways to establish something for your children, even though we may have failed somewhat. And the way things are going right now, I don't think we have any other choice but to look back, then go back to our old communities to see if they could be rebuilt, to establish our place once again, or begin to establish new communities. And once we do this, we should concentrate on building, creating, establishing businesses so that we could come up with our own communities and determine our directions for our families. And once we do this, we should stay there. As an added postscript, I attended all black schools from elementary to high school, and the black community I grew up in, it still exists. I'm not living there right now, but I'm going back to see what I can do. And this concludes my commentary. Stay tuned for part 2 of this. This is BEH Talks, aka BH Boss, talking loud, saying everything. Please subscribe to my channel, and as always, comment on what I just said. Thank you.
My life, man, I really hope someone can save me. I'm yelling to the sky, man, I really hope the Lord can hear me. Man, I'm trying to get high, but the devil always wanna bring me down. Yeah, I'm running out of time, and I hope you're still in love with me. I put faith in you. I knew it was a mistake to do.